before I can start on the next project. I have to clean all of this up. All right, let's get to it. That was not what I had in mind. So, I've got this stereo system, which I've had for 15 odd years. Another one of my purchases from when I was a teenager. Bought it from Kmart for 350 bucks. It still works. Up until a recent event or gathering, this was all working fine. So that's the screen protector. But some of the speakers are a bit dodgy. The connections in the back of the amplifier aren't the best. And I've been wanting to work on a little project where I take my box of old car speakers with a subwoofer along with a head unit, and amplifier that I've had for a long time. Since my first car, so it would have been somewhere around 05. Still have the amp and all the wiring, so I'm looking to make some sort of a stereo. I'm not real sure how I'm going to film this, but for now I'll just show you what I have. So here I have an old Sony head unit. I have a 240 volt to 12 volt power supply. That's the wiring loom. I got the amplifier and a bunch of wiring for said amplifier and for the subwoofer, and a bunch of, I got some 6x9s, some 6-inch, some little 4-inch rounds. I don't know if any of these work. If they don't, I'm happy to tear the ones that work out of that. And then I have to come and get this subwoofer. So I think the first thing is to check whether I can get power to this thing. I am no electrician. My dad is, and he ran me through how to use this. He's wired it up for me. I'm gonna probably crimp these. Yeah, whatever, we'll figure it out. But as long as I go positive and negative, it should be all right. This is constant power. This one is the ignition / accessories power. So this one needs to be fed to the power supply. And then this one, if it's fitted to a car, is meant to go through the ignition so that the head unit has constant power so that it remembers what radio stations and whatnot you program into it. Keeps the memory chip powered, and then when you turn the keys of your ignition, it powers up the rest of the head unit. And then this one is my grounding, which I believe just needs to come back to the negative terminal, because in a car the grounding is just back to the negative terminal of the battery. Well, these are blunt. One. Okay, so that'll be my negative. Oh, come on. Yeah. So, as the radio requires the accessories to be on to power up, I'm going to join these two together, because I don't have an ignition and or accessories, so it's just going to have constant power. As soon as the power point is switched on, the radio will be powered up. Unfortunately, it does mean that if I program the radio, as soon as it's powered down, the memory will be lost immediately. Theoretically. So I think when I plug this in, I'll have constant power to both of these. Should be grounded. I'm going to go plug it in and see if it sets itself on fire. Alright, it's powered up. A smart person probably would have tested this prior to plugging it in, to putting these in, but we'll see. Positive, negative. 13.4 volts. Switch it off again. So I do believe if I have done this correctly, when I plug this back in, the head unit should power up. Yeah, boy. Okay, good. Looks like I've been successful with my understanding there. So I guess the next thing now is going to be connecting some speakers out of my old Mitsubishi Verada that I had. Just choose a speaker, the white and the white-black striped cables, which are these two, are the positive and negatives of the left speaker. I've got a car antenna here. There should just be a spot on the back for this to plug into, which is down here. Source tuner. I believe that this should be registering something. So when I connect this, we should get some sound if this speaker works.
Coming up in hours, so let's do it, mate. Let's do it. We gotta.
Nice. Success. I've got it right. Now the question is, how do I want to run my cables? How do I want to make my box? And how do I power the amp and subwoofer? Here's the amplifier. I can't see any labeling that helps me, but I think it's a 300 watt. Does that sound about right? Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter what it is because it's what I've got. These are my speaker outputs. This is my power. Here's the positive for the 12 volt. This is for a remote control, which I'm not doing. And here is the ground, AKA the negative. Got some nice thick cable here. I feel like I'm gonna overdraw the power supply. Whoa. Ow, that was my fingers. I don't even think that's gonna fit. If I do overdraw the power supply, it should shut off, it won't break it. At least that's what my dad says. That looks dodgy. Oh, that looks really dodgy. But I'm gonna run with it because I want to see if this works. Let's cram that in there. Go the ground first. Think that's the correct order of operation. It has nice little crimps on it. This has a fuse in it. This test that I'm doing now is just proof of concept. We'll see if this even works. And then once I find out that yes, it does work, hopefully, that's when I'll go about making sure that everything's nice, neat, tidy, crimped properly. Golly. Into the power. And then this is now live. A smart person would disconnect all of this. Ooh, we got power. A little bit of a spark. Did I blow a fuse? Am I getting power? We got power. The fuses are intact, but no power light. We've got power, but it isn't making it. Well, none of the lights are showing up, but what we'll do is go straight and try and get some audio out of this thing. So I'm just plugging in the red and white points on the back. Red, white, and then this is very convoluted. I don't know if this is going to work. I do worry that I've lost track of my own thoughts here. So that's a negative. Now I need a positive. Shut up. Find the ends of these. Grab the speaker and just see. Nothing. Nothing. Okay, so the head unit's still working. This. Shut up! This is the issue. So I've killed the power so that I can kerfuffle around with this for a bit. Maybe I'll do it this way. Jam it in there. Alright, that's definitely connected. As is that. Alright, let's try power again. Why? It has gone into protection mode. Why would it do that? Alright, I've been doing this 25 minutes now. I gotta stop and figure out what I'm doing wrong. I figured it out. Look at this mess of wiring. I couldn't get the sub out working, or even the rear out. You can switch between subwoofer and rear out. power was working fine, but it went into protection mode all the time. But it's because I was missing this little cable, the one I said I didn't need, which is the remote, which I think just sends a signal from the radio to this to say it needs to do work. Once I did that, this started working, which I have put into the input of the amp. It does its thing. Here's the speaker output, which then runs to the back of the subwoofer. It's working. That's all I'll give you because of copyright and all of that. So now it's going to be a case of laying it out and actually figuring out speakers and wiring. So now that I know that the whole thing works, I have to figure out how to wire it nicely. What I think I'm going to do, use these crimps on pretty much every cable, like so, and then crimp that down, and then run one of these blocks so that all the cables coming out of here will feed into this, and then from here I'll go to the power, the amp, the speakers, all of that jazz. So I have enough of these here solely for the speakers, not enough room for the power to go here as well. So the two powers, the earth and the remote, will have to be a direct line to where they need to go, which is fine by me. Pretty sure I don't need the antenna remote, and that is one that I'm confident in because this only controls the up and down of the motor for the antenna should you have an automatic one, which I don't. Now there's no confusing which thingy-majiggy I need, but I need an extension for now. Until I figure out how I'm wiring these ones up, I'm not going to crimp them just yet. So I'll be placing the crimps inside here, and the screw inside will clamp down on the crimps. There we go. So now I've got the positive and the negative of each speaker. So the two greys are one, purple, green, white. The lengths are a bit annoying. Probably could have made them the same length, but the question is, how important is that to me? It'd look way better if they were all the same length. No, don't care. That's much more satisfying. What I think I'll do, using these crimps that fit perfectly on these tabs, I'll just run a length of cable, which I have plenty of, so I can cut those to a fairly long length so that I don't have to worry about them coming up short. Just cut myself a fairly good length. I think that's more than I'm going to need. Okay, so that was unsuccessful. Oh dear, I'm going to run out of these. Alright, so that's one. That's the speaker connected. And then on this end, once I've determined the length, I'll put probably this sides again on there, and then that can attach to the corresponding speaker side. I'll be back once I've done this more. I have successfully wired these all together. I've cleaned up these crimps. I've got the block done. I've done some of the crimping on the speakers, but I need to buy more crimps. So that has to wait till tomorrow. But for now I've got the amp working, the power supply, the head unit, 6 speakers and the subwoofer all up and running. It's the next day. I got myself some more terminals to keep working on this stereo, and it occurred to me that I have a bunch of extra speakers and another subwoofer down here, and I have 2 spare slots on my amp, and to operate these small speakers I've wired them into the same ports as these, so that that's incorrect, same as these, so they operate on the same power supply. I'm thinking of doing the same thing with these Sony speakers, but wiring them together with the 6x9s, and then using these 2 ports off the amp to power the other subwoofer, because obviously more speakers are better. So now I'm going to continue putting these terminals onto the wires to connect them to the speaker. Beauty. So I'm going to do that to the rest. I found these plugs that just happen to perfectly fit the orientation where because they're 90 degrees to each other, so it fits perfectly on there. I have second sub wired up, and now it's time to break all my hard work. But it is now time to start dismantling this. Well, that's not working for me. I had these wired parallel because some of the outputs stopped working, so I had to plug multiple speakers into the same outputs, which is what I'm doing currently with the speaker box that I'm making. Running out of space here. So that should be 7 speakers. And that, in theory, should mean that I have 2 4-inch, 2 6x9s, 2 6-inch, 2 6 inches there again. So I should have 2, 4, 6, 8 speakers and 2 subwoofers. Now for the moment of truth. Alright, we have power. I've got all of these working now. If I turn it up too loud, turn the subwoofers up too much, it does max out my power supply and it switches off. So I might get a second power supply and run 20 amps instead. The dilemma that I'm faced with now is on these small little 4-inch speakers. I don't know what these connections are. I don't have anything that would suit it. Prior to what I've done now, I just had it looped in there just to test. What I've discovered sort of works though is these crimping things. If I squash them flat, it does slide on there and it holds fairly well. So that might be the way I tackle this issue. I'm a genius. So now that I've got the wiring figured out, I have to figure out how to fit this all into a box and how to make a box. This is going to be the actual hard part. I'm probably going to pull these speakers out of this, have them just floating around free like these are. I'll probably do the same again for the subwoofers. I don't know. I really don't know how to go about making the box for it. So this might be where I end this video. It's all wired up, all ready to go. I just have to figure out placement. My power supply does shut off if I crank the music too loud. So the 2 options I have are don't turn it up so loud or get a second power supply, and then I'll have 20 amps instead of 10 amps. But I think for now, that's where I'm going to call it. Bye.